What up, YouTube? We got a pretty big video today because we are going to be mounting the radiator in the Beetle. So tune in as I cut into the trunk, make some mounts onto the radiator, as well as make some kind of structure in the trunk to hold it. Okay, so my initial plan of action is going to be to take this plate, which is 3/16 thick and 3 inches wide. Essentially, I'm going to, on both sides, and plate mount it so that I have somewhere to bolt it to the car. I may or may not use these bottom pegs, so undecided. I think it would be nice to, because it would put less strain on these mounts, but we'll see. Just to give you a better view of what I'm trying to do, you see the plates here working from the trunk out towards the front of the car. Just need to find somewhere in here where I can essentially weld into the car and connect. It's not a very good view. Here you go. See, the plate is right here. What I want to do is find somewhere I can mount another plate just to bolt them together. I'm still debating if I want to have something that this all drops into or not. Okay, so I have the radiator basically locked up where I want it to go. Did a lot of back and forth in my head of whether I wanted vertical or anything, but I really think this is going to be the best. Going straight up and down, maybe the front, the top is tilted slightly forward. So now what I'm going to do is use my L brackets that I bought to essentially mate up to the flat plate that I put on the radiator. I ended up grabbing this chop saw, cut-off saw at Harbor Freight, and it makes it a lot easier to cut these brackets out. And basically, I decided to use a thinner steel because these aren't really going to be load-bearing. It's really just for locating the radiator. And now I'm going to be using regular washers on this side, and then underneath is a rubber washer just to prevent any straight steel to aluminum contact. So now what I'm going to do is cut some L bracket to go here and allow it to use those pins for locating. And this L bracket is actually what's going to hold most of the weight. So here we have the beginning of the frame. We see is the L bracket here. And essentially I'm going to make an upright here that goes up with a tab that will then bolt here. So essentially I can take this part of the construction out and it'll bolt into the frame here that will be welded into the Beetle. You can see what I've done here. I've cleaned up the metal on both ends of the bracket. I took the radiator out. And we're going to be putting these uprights onto the bracket. And on the top, we'll have a little tab that will then mate to these so that the radiator can come in and out. Alright, I'm just trying to get my pieces fixtured up so that I can weld them in and just tack them for now. So see, we put this tack right here, And I would show welding, but what I've read is that it damages the camera, and this isn't my camera, so I really don't want to take that risk. But let me know what you guys think in the comments, whether or not it's okay to film welding. Alright, so we get the welds done. I'll show you the worst one first. Okay. We just did all 3 sides. Okay. Personally, I think these ones came out the best. And see, now we have the beginning of our frame. So now to make our brackets, essentially I took this long piece of angle iron, whatever you want to call it, and cut it down to 1 inch. And then what I can do with that is I will, let me just make enough space. So I can weld this onto the radiator frame, and then I'll use a nut and bolt, a welded nut and bolt, to pinch these all together, and that'll be how it's held up in the car. Now hopefully this makes a little more sense now that you see it's tacked. So essentially this will hold them together with a bolt. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So what I'm going to do here is drill for the bolt and the nut. And you can see the center punch. And I'm going to use my step drill. So I'm actually going to mark this so I don't over drill it. So we'll start 8 millimeters, which is about 5/16. That's the size of the bolt, but the weld nut actually calls out a larger size because it has like a pilot hole on it. So see, now what I'll do is put this nut here, and then I'll tack weld that on and a bolt on this side. And perfect. So now you see kind of the master plan. We tack these nuts on here. This bracket is always going to be attached to the radiator. And then we bolt it to this radiator frame, which will be bolted into the car. So that's the next step, is getting this frame mounted into the car so that the radiator can come in and out with just a couple bolts. Alright, so now that we get the radiator frame all welded up, the next part is going to be to put these, weld in these little brackets, essentially so that we have something to weld the radiator frame to. So I have another one here just so you can see. And it's basically just going to go up in here. And we'll weld that in place, and then we'll have something to mount to. And so here you see I have my 2, basically they're like landing pads welded in on both sides. And so from here, I'll basically create some kind of bolt-in mount that'll connect the radiator frame to the body. Alright, so we are back at it today, and I could not be more amped up. So our next few steps are going to be really going to put in some work on getting this radiator mounted. So not necessarily what I have to do immediately next, but what I decided for me personally what the next step is going to be is I'm going to be welding a nut in this hole here, and same thing on the other side, right down there. Better view, right down there. So I'm going to weld a nut on the underside, and then with these brackets I'm going to basically cut them to fit down here. It'll be able to, I'll bolt it in place, and then I will weld it to the radiator frame down here. So watch as we get that going. And so see, we have our L bracket here. which we'll use. This will actually get welded to the radiator frame, and this will bolt in and out so I can take the whole system out. So we'll do the same thing over here on this side. Then we'll put the radiator back in and start tacking it together. Alright, so I got the car up on jack stands. You can see the next thing in my order of operations is going to be to weld this nut and this nut to the car so that I can easily bolt these in and out without having to put a wrench on the bottom. So here we go. So now you can see we have those nuts welded on. One here and the other right here. So now we have two of what will be the 4 mounting points. So we have 1 and 2, which will essentially weld to the radiator frame. And then our pads, we'll put another bracket here and here, so that we can essentially just drop it in and it'll bolt into these 4 locations. And so now you see we got 2 nuts welded on. And so these will be used for brackets in the car. Okay, so I just realized the camera wasn't recording, but what I'm doing right now is cutting a slot out of this with my cutoff wheel. Let's see if I can get it in focus. There we go. Cutting this out so that I can access the bolt through it. And now you see with that piece, I was able to make this bracket here, which essentially is going to be the mounting point. This is going to weld to the radiator frame, and this is going to weld to the car. Alright, so just another quick update. We got the brackets tack welded in here, and you see these top ones here. What we're going to do is just basically weld a small piece to connect them. It'll bridge across like right here. And same thing on this side. I actually have one there just to try to get a measurement, but that's not how it will actually sit. So yeah, just a quick update on that. We'll get these all tacked in, and we'll have the top mounts pretty much ready. And then after that, we'll just do a quick little bar across those mounts on the bottom down there. And now you can see we have both of the mounts tacked in here. We don't have the lower ones done yet, but we do have driver and passenger on the top side. So really all that's left is to mark up these lower mounts there and down there. And then just finish weld the whole unit. We will have a working radiator mount. Alright, so after a lot of cutting, tacking, we have the frame in the car. So my next thing to do is I'm going to take this out, finish weld everything, and then give it a quick coat of paint to prevent it from rusting. So that's where we're going to end this video for today. In the next one I'll be sure to show you the frame finished welded and painted. And then the big news for the next video is going to be getting that motor off the stand and into the Beetle. So if you like what you saw, hit the thumbs up button, leave some comments in the comments section below, and make sure you subscribe for more.